Good morning, Phil Guinois and Micah Watkins with the ENO, or Empowerment Business Success Podcast, March 25th, 2024. So, Micah, it was a great weekend this weekend. I actually got to get in 2 bike rides, one of them in the rain and the wind yesterday. But I was thinking today we would talk, our subject would be networking. It's like a jigsaw puzzle with people.
Absolutely. It is a jigsaw puzzle. I don't think people realize, first off, what is a jigsaw puzzle? And does anyone even remember doing them as kids? How many times did you put together puzzles?
I don't know, but quite a few.
Yeah, I did as well. I remember vividly having a puzzle when I was growing up. It was it was simple. It would be one that, a 5-year-old would put together. However, it became a how fast can you put the puzzle together challenge when I was like 5, 6, 7, 8. Obviously, the older you get, then all of a sudden, it becomes easier and easier and easier. And the more times you do it. But I specifically remember putting that together and timing between myself and my brother. We would make a challenge out of it. Again, it was a very rudimentary puzzle, probably only like 20 pieces. However, that posed a challenge when she put in the time element, right?
Yep.
And then think about puzzles. They're kind of made fun of, like on the Instagram reels, people are like, oh, what are you doing putting a puzzle together? Like, I don't think people really give them credit for what they are, right? Yeah. And the challenge that they can actually bring. Well,
and the creativeness of your mind. So, one of the things about putting a puzzle together and networking is all the pieces are different, right? All the people are different. Yet some of them look very similar and like, oh, that one's going to be a perfect, oh no, that one doesn't work there. It's the same thing with networking with people. You think in, an industry or an individual, like that might be a great fit for me in my business, to partner with, to collaborate with, and sometimes they are. Other times they're not. But you don't know that till you're trying to actually put it together and see if it fits. And so, I really think that the more that we do networking, just like a puzzle, whether it's the same puzzle or it's a different puzzle, you begin to understand, if you do it regularly, you begin to understand the pieces a little bit better. You become a little more proficient at recognizing the pieces and, oh, that piece is going to go over here by that color or the shape or whatever it is. And I think we learn how to do the same thing with people to a great extent. When we're networking, this person, this industry, right? But you can't just stop there. You actually have to go a little bit deeper to find out, is that industry, business, a good collaborative partnership? Is that person a good collaborative partnership? And I think it's the people that really becomes the interesting part of the networking, just like putting a puzzle together.
Oh, right? Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, each piece is unique. I mean, aren't we all snowflakes? That's what everyone says. Oh, we're all snowflakes.
That has a different meaning today than it did a few years ago, right?
Absolutely. So, how many times do people go out there and network and they think, oh, yeah, I just found myself the best partner, the best, this is the perfect, add on to my business, right? This person's going to compliment me tremendously. And then it's like, well, it's not working. Why? Well, personalities, backgrounds, trainings, right? I mean, let's just go to mindset. Mindset could be completely different.
Absolutely.
And now all of a sudden, if that's just where the meshes aren't happening. And then resistance gets built up, resentments happen, and then people get frustrated and irritated, and they say, oh, networking doesn't work. Oh, this person should be doing this, and they should be doing that, or I should be doing, and then you get into the shoulds, and then you're like, wait a second, whoa, let's back this up. Talking about networking. What is networking? It's building relationships. And when you boil down a relationship, it's that in itself is putting together a puzzle.
Yeah. Well, part of that piece of, this is going to be a perfect augmentation to my business, a collaborative partnership. The other part is there's past history there, right? On both sides of the equation there. My industry might be a perfect collaborative partnership for you, but I may have had 5 or 6 really bad experiences with somebody in your space. So depending upon, my mindset or the person's mindset and the development that they've done, that may be a heavy load back there that is holding up a wall that you might need to get through before you can actually find out if it's a great fit, right? And that's where a lot of people quit, is before they ever actually begin to scale the wall or break down the wall to where, okay, I can see that this guy is not going to be like the 4 or 5 experiences I had before. And that's important.
Absolutely. Well, and just for a visualization, instead of really scaling the wall or, breaking down the wall, I look at it like this. That person, they're holding the pieces that you're missing. How are you going to build the relationship where they're like, all right, here are the pieces that you need to finish your puzzle.
Yep.
Right? Finish the masterpiece that you're looking to build. So really that's where the collaboration comes in. And then I think, with that, it's training and patience. And we're all people. Does anything really ever happen in a minute, in a split second? No, people need time to analyze and figure it out. And how does this fit into my life? How is this going to benefit me and my family and my business and all the things, right? And it's got to, and that in itself, again, it comes back to the puzzle. It comes back down to the jigsaw, puzzle that we're creating that is life. That's all that it is. Right. But, we had a conversation earlier today about, our mastermind groups and how, to make them the most effective, we really have to kind of start to pinpoint and get really precise about what businesses we pair together within the masterminds.
Yeah.
To make them the most effective. See, now how many networking, places out there are even doing that, or are they just jamming people in there for memberships?
Well, I think here's my experience, having networked for over 30 years, built all of my businesses in that, and being a certified network. I think that networking organizations do one of 2 things. They create a very rigid structure of, we can divide this up into all of these pieces. For example, insurance is a great example of it, right? There's a whole bunch of different subcategories of insurance, and a lot of networking organizations will dice that up into as many small pieces as they possibly can, so that it does 2 things. The intent behind it is every one of those people that is in that space that comes in that industry typically has 250 contacts or more. So if you divide that category into 5 categories, right, now you got 1,500 potential connections for the rest of the group. The other side is, I think then the other flip to that is networking organizations, other ones will just open it up to anything and everything, right? And it doesn't matter. And, there's good and there's plus and minus to both of that, right? But I think what we are looking at trying to do inside of ENO and as our mastermind groups is, as the group is evolving, looking at like you said, what is that fit that we need to have, and where would an overlap happen that we may want to, by individual groups, put a little structure around that versus just a blanket structure of it all gets diced up this way or none of it gets diced up at all.
Yeah. Yeah, and when you start to break that down the way that you did, I mean, that makes a lot of sense, but I think that's what makes us unique as ENO and what we're doing here on the networking level. It's all about improvement. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about CANI, right? Constant and never-ending improvement. And if you just take that, philosophy, awesome. We're always working towards effectiveness. So one of the things a thought came to my head here while we were talking about the puzzle pieces and all that. Networking takes a little bit of practice. It also takes practice at working with people and being a people person and how to network with people. How many people out there networking have gone out there, did a one-to-one, or they're meeting with somebody and it turns into a sales pitch immediately right out the gate.
Sales breath right away.
Yeah, boom, and you're like, oh my goodness. This person isn't aware of what the conversation was in, and there's not ethics, but, kind of like under, the rule of the road, kind of the, what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, just like the unwritten rules of how to network and just being, I not use the word respectful. Just having an understanding of what it is that we're doing here.
Well, and, so that's a great statement, and I'll give you an example. And someone that I know well, we all know well, first time we met years ago for a one-to-one, boom, laptop was open right into a presentation. And yet they hadn't networked a lot, right? Now I'd been networking for 20 plus years, 25 years. So it didn't bother me, right? I knew what was going on. It's a knowledge level at that point in time, right? And the industry that they'd come from, you make the sale the very first time because you usually don't get a chance to make the sale afterwards. And that's completely different than networking, right? So I think that, understanding that new people coming into networking, that's going to be common in many cases for them to kind of be more on the salesy side a little bit. And I'd say it's salesy and an excited side of sharing what it is that they do, right? The other piece, though, I think is in how people networking and how in ENO we can help address this is setting expectations going into that one-to-one, whether that's an email or a text message, or we sit down and like, okay, hey, we got about an hour here. Let's do this. How about 30 minutes? You tell me about you and your business and guiding that conversation. And then I'll take 30 minutes and setting up a little bit of parameters, so to speak, so that you can control that a little bit. Now, again, if they're not used to networking or they're fresh into it, or if they're in other groups or if they're in a business where that's the modus of operandi, they're going to jump right into that and just understand that happens, right? Doesn't mean they're a bad person either, though, right? They just need some time and training to hopefully move away from that to some extent.
Yeah, and then create the connections.
Yeah.
Moving on. So with the training, I think we have Luke Days here in Arizona. There's this big air show, and I happen to be there on Saturday. It was awesome. It was super cool. The highlight, of course, the Thunderbirds, right? The Air Force Thunderbirds, of course, they're the highlight. Why are they the highlight?
They're the premier flying team out there.
Absolutely. Why are they the premier flying team out there? I mean, everyone's heard of the Blue Angels. And sure, they're cool. They're awesome. They do basically the same things that the Thunderbirds do. However, the Thunderbirds are they're just a little bit tighter. They're just that notch above. I mean, so here's jets. These jets are flying at 500 miles an hour, and they're 18 inches away from each other. That's 1.5 feet away from each other, flying in formation, creating a perfect triangle or perfect diamond in the sky, and flying in this perfect formation. And they're doing it while turning and barrel rolls and flipping and loops and all of this stuff at high rates of speed. So when we talk about training, how much training did they have to do?
Never ending,
right? It's constant. I mean, so when you want to become proficient at anything, you've just got to put in the time. Same thing goes for networking. I think a lot of people think, oh yeah, I'm going to go and network, and then I'm going to meet some people, and they just, and then they leave it at that. Although if you want to be successful at it, and there's a way to be successful at networking and building relationships with people and starting to put the puzzle pieces together, you got to practice at it. You got to work on it. That's what we do. I mean, we refer to the empowerment training. It's the work, right?
Yep.
You got to work on yourself. Now, how many people out there are, they get to a place where they're like, man, this person's really powerful. They hold themselves well. They're just, you just have that, and you sense the energy coming from that person. You're like, wow, how did you get there? Well, they put in the work. They put in the work to get there, and our environments and what we're thrusted into did not naturally produce that. So
well, and those people that are powerful like that, and they can hold a room and all that, you can tell a difference between the ones that are arrogant and conceited versus those that are humble and can actually be powerful and hold a room, and where people are like, wow, I'm mesmerized almost by that person whenever they're talking, right? And it's that work that they've put in to get beyond the ego, to get beyond the cockiness, whatever you want to call it, right? To get to that place where they're just very humble and powerful. They've done the work, right? And that shows up inside of the networking. So what I've found is that the people that are some of the best networkers are the people that understand that it's a process, not only to get where they've gotten, but the sales is a process. On my side to you, selling to you, and building a relationship with you, right? So there's a big difference right there. There's a difference between selling and relationship selling.
Mm-hmm.
Networking is about relationship selling, not just selling. And that's what a lot of people do, is they come to networking to sell. In fact, one of the things that we say in one of our lunches is, if you're just looking to meet as many people as you can to sell to, we're probably not the organization for you. However, if you're looking for a networking environment of collaboration and cooperation and marketing that goes beyond the status quo, then we're probably the community for you, right? So we literally address that right there, that it's not about just making the sale.
Yeah. About creating the opportunities for each other within the networking space. And again, when you're networking, you build those relationships. And that's where people are like, oh, they're out there in the world. They're talking to their people in their lives. And they go, oh, you need so-and-so. Oh, you need so-and-so. I'll introduce you. However, it's I think there's a lot of people out there that go, oh, I'm going to go network and think that, boom, 1, 2, 3 times, I'm just going to pop in there and business is going to be flowing. And it couldn't be further from the truth.
Yep.
Right? I mean, it's just, I remember when I first started.
I remember.
You know what? I'm curious. Like, you know what? I don't have nearly the years of experience that you do, Phil. I've been networking regularly for a little over 4 years now. I'd like to think of myself as a quick study. However, enlighten me. Give some feedback to me. Where was I when I started networking? From the outside perspective, I'm curious.
So here's what I can say, and it's a little hard to remember 4 years ago, because that was actually pandemic time. So
that fun stuff.
All kinds of stuff has transpired and craziness in our world, and even over here at ENO, and how we have evolved from what we were back then. So it's a little hard to remember some of the specifics, but here's what I can say. For you and me, there was always a connection because of our past history in the restaurant industry, right? And there was always, with you, there was always a high level of professionalism and potential that in you. And you were never for me, you were never the hard salesy kind of a person. Yes, there were probably things that you've learned over the years in networking that you were maybe doing that you had no idea to do any different or anything like that. So I would say that there was nothing that stood out for me that was like a red flag, like, oh, creepy.
Ooh, that guy.
Ooh, that guy, right?
That guy over there.
And what I've seen, and the reason you're here with Jack and I today as a partner, which we brought you in almost a year ago as a partner, is how you have grown and evolved in your networking. And so I would say that you were just new and young, because that was never something we needed to do in the restaurant industry, right?
Oh, absolutely not.
Now, however, if you think about it, we were pretty good networkers because we dealt with a whole wide variety of people in the restaurants and the food establishments that we ran. But you'd never tried to go out and do what you did in promoting the business. So you've grown a ton as a networker. There was just things for you to learn, I think. And none of it was like, that's a little awkward. Nothing like that ever showed up. You were a good networker, and I could tell that there was a lot of potential, and that you kept, like, every time you kept improving. And I remember we were still meeting over at the Parlay Kitchen in 2 different networking groups. And I remember it was almost like a light switch when your verbiage on some of your commercials, so to speak, got really powerful. And that was just a matter of time for you to get there, right? And you honed in on a few things that, especially like a tagline, that was like, boom, that hits people when you say that. So that's what I have to say about your networking. You have grown a ton as a networker. You're probably one of the best networkers that I know today.
So the reason why I bring that up, how many people are out there like me, getting started for the first time, don't know what they're doing, yet they need to get started. And it's not to say that, oh man, networking's hard and I'm going to come out here like with sales breath and all this other stuff, but it's doable. Like pay attention, you put in some work into it and you just tweak and hone some things and like, oh man, I can really make this work for myself and grow and expand that way. If that's how you're going to market your business. Because at the end of the day, that's why we network. It's all about marketing.
Yes. And you and I have had this conversation before. There is how do I want to say this? There's a pitfall to networking in too many places too quickly. And part of that pitfall is, and yet I recognize we all got to, when you first get out and you're doing whatever you're doing, you got to meet a lot of people. So sometimes that means you need to get in and go to multiple things to be able to meet enough people. However, the pitfall lies in that most of them have a different culture, so to speak. And so it can be confusing. You're learning. It's like putting 3 jigsaw puzzles on the table, all the pieces together, and then trying to build 3 separate jigsaw puzzles, but the pieces are all mixed together. And how do you figure out, I got this piece over here that actually goes over there in that puzzle because that's where I learned it from. But now I got to get it back over there to build the puzzle. So I think that sometimes people should start networking in one area for a little while and then add another one before they start jumping into 2 or 3 or 4 all at one time and getting overwhelmed and not getting any system or structure, so to speak. Do you know what I mean? Oh, absolutely. So, to really kind of wrap up the puzzle pieces and all that stuff to what you were saying. I mean, yes, essentially, when you get started, you got to throw yourself out there just to meet a handful of people. But however, at the same time, you want to be like figuring out, well, where do I want to, throw an anchor down, right? I will always use the fishing analogies because it just lends itself so well, right? When you first start, you're dredge fishing. You just throw a net down there and just tug the boat and just pull up whatever, comes out. And that's fine when you're first get going. However, when you finally start meeting people and you're like, oh, okay, now the pieces are starting to fit together. I really synergize with this person and this person. Oh, I think this is the place that I want to be. I need to put an anchor down here. And so I was networking with an individual and they called me out on it. They were like, dude, you're networking too many places. Focus on 1 or 2. And I was like, kudos to that dude, because had he not called me out on it, I would not be in the position that I am now. So I took that to heart and I really then focused on like, where do I want to focus my energy and networking? And I locked it into like 2 places. And then this is where I'm going to be. That's it. I'm not going anywhere else. And I got really focused on that. And I say that for just the people listening, if they're in that spot, hey, look, if you've been networking for a little bit, for some time, and you're not in just focused on 1 or 2, you might want to look into that. It might benefit you because you can create the relationships at a deeper level. And to go back to the fishing analogy, now you're fishing for bigger fish, specific bigger fish, as opposed to just whatever comes up in the nets. Yep. And you said, the specificness of it. I think the other piece is, and this will kind of lead into our guest with us today, is if we go back to the puzzle piece and also the Luke show with the planes that are flying 500 miles an hour, 18 inches apart, and the amount of practice that they have and the level of depth that they know each other is what creates that to happen, right? Mm-hmm. And that shows up in our collaborative mastermind groups, that we are creating deep level relationships where those people can fly at 500 miles an hour and can give the kind of connections that really expand somebody's business, and that they don't need to just be flying anywhere and everywhere out there in the networking world.
Absolutely.
So with that, Micah, who's our guest today?
We got lovely Yoana Santiago. She is with USHEALTH Advisors. And let's bring her in. Let's give her a warm welcome.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate the opportunity of being here. Thank you.
So Yoana, what is your profession? What exactly is it that you do?
So title says health insurance agent, but I think of myself more so as an advisor, as someone that provides information and guidance to people, either at the end of the day, if they end up working with me directly or not, but I'm going to provide as much information and resources that I have at my fingertips. So I do consider myself more so an advisor than just a health insurance agent.
Well, and I think that's really, really great, because if you, at least over here, when you hear agent, that lands more like sales, right? I got to sell. And advisor is really more what you actually said right there at the end, right? I advise. And at the end of the day, yes, you're there advising, hoping that that person sees value and says, this is who I need to be doing my health insurance with. But you still provide the advice regardless of the outcome. And that's quite a bit different.
Yes. And I, going back to what you guys were talking about in networking and building the relationship, that's what I'm focusing on every time I speak with someone. Again, going back to regardless if they're going to be my clients or not, they have family members, they have friends that maybe in the future will need my help. And if in some way I was able to help them out by providing them some resources, a guidance, they're going to think of me as a person to go to. So it's establishing that good relationship with people and letting them know that regardless of the outcome, they can trust me that I will provide the information and resources available out there for them.
Awesome. So why did you decide to market yourself in the networking space?
I like people. I know
it's a good thing to like when you're especially in your line of work.
I like people. So because of the pandemic and everything else, we got so used to just phone calls, Zoom meetings, and things of that sort. And after about a year or so of doing that, just 6 days a week, sitting in front of my computer, I realized that I needed more of like human connection. I wanted to go out there, meet people, shake hands, get to know people, right? And so that's when I decided to start networking. I have a couple of colleagues that I reached out to them, got some advice from them. They did mention a couple of groups, like BNI being one of the first ones that they mentioned. And funny enough, I did not end up visiting a BNI until months after I made a decision which group I wanted to be a part of. So then I just started researching. And like you guys mentioned, I was just going to everything and anything that was out there, meeting people and getting a feel as to where I wanted to sort of anchor, where I wanted to stay, right? And it did not really take me that long to figure out where I wanted to be, because I sort of knew what I was looking for, more so than just creating that business connection. I also wanted that sense of community, what I was craving, that human connection and meeting other people and developing relationships and stuff like that. So that's how I ended up here with ENO.
Awesome. Well, we're glad that you decided to, pop in and be a member and everything there. One of the things, what you were talking about, so got into networking, you decided, hey, look, I want to hang out over here. What was it that drew you to want to hang out with us over here in this space?
Number one, I go a lot off of people's vibes, and I met the both of you guys, met Jack, and it was just the energy. It just felt right, first off. And then after the presentation, it was funny because I was not even going to be able to make it to that lunch and learn meeting, but I finished my meeting that I had prior to that, and I realized the location was about 3 minutes from my office. So I was like, okay, I can make it. So then I ended up going, and after listening to the presentation and the fact that I had gone to visit a couple other groups, however, I never heard them talking about mindset or personal development or anything of that nature. So as soon as I heard that, it was sort of like a light bulb. I was like, okay, so I can create the business connections that I'm looking for. I can build relationship and have a community, be a part of a community, but at the same time, I can work on myself, which I've been really, I'm really into personal development, reading books and listening to podcasts and watching YouTube videos and whatnot. However, I hadn't really done anything in person. So when I saw the opportunity, I was like, okay, so these are the people that I can grow with. This is where I'm going to learn what I need to learn, and not just for my business, but also for my personal life. And I know the effect that can have in different areas in my life. So when I heard that, I was like, okay, this is it for me. Where do I sign up?
Awesome.
So you mentioned, pandemic-ish time and endless days of phone calls and Zoom meetings and then the contrast of networking in person and the human connection. From your perspective in your business of health insurance, can you see a delineation, so to speak, between the quality of the relationship you have with your clients that came from Zoom and phone call meetings to those that you have acquired through in-person contact? Is there a difference in the level of relationship?
Yes, for sure there is, especially with people that I was able to meet in person, at least for the first maybe 5 or 10 minutes after we first come in contact, where I'm asking them questions like personal questions like, hey, so what do you do for work? Or do you have kids? And so on and so forth. And it just sort of start building that relationship so that when we get to talk about the health insurance part, is it's like if we knew each other already, if we were already almost like friends. So there's definitely a stronger connection with people I've met in person prior to that sales meeting, right? Or that sales phone call, for sure. And those also tend to stay on the books longer than people that was probably a one call close that I purchased, last night or in the morning, a brand new lead that came through. And yeah, I can definitely say there is a stronger connection there. They stay on the books longer because they feel like they know you, right? They feel like they can trust you. They've seen what you look like. They've seen how they sort of get kind of like your energy. They feel your energy. And I think that all of that plays in to when for them deciding to either purchase a plan with me, staying on the books for as long as they can, and so on. So yes, There's definitely that.
So they know you, but I think it's also very important to point out you know them, right? And so it's that connection. And, you mentioned that one time, close on the first Zoom phone call or whatever, and, they don't stick around. Well, that goes back to the fishing net that Micah's talking about, right? So in the beginning, you get out there and you start fishing and you throw out your fishing net and, you get a little bit of everything. You might get a bluegill in there. You might get a trout in there. Well, you can eat the bluegill. I mean, it'll put a little food on the table, but, eventually you want to get to the type of fish that you really like. Not everybody likes trout, right? But what happens is those clients that come on that you got through in-person networking, they stay longer, they feed you longer, so to speak, right? And so that's fishing with the right kind of net and developing who your market is. And you don't have to catch as many fish because you're building on something, especially in the insurance world, right? Because it's not just a one-time sale, right? Mm-hmm. There's a residual aspect to what you do.
For sure.
So what do you love about the health insurance space versus other things that you've done in your life?
I will say is the fulfillment of helping people. The fulfillment of helping people with the knowledge that I have. It is so hard to find honest people out there. And it's funny that you asked me that question just today. I had a brand new lead come from one of my social medias, and she was just telling me about the struggles that she's going through with her daughter who has cancer and currently lost their medical coverage. And she had posted a video on TikTok. She was just crying, asking for help. She didn't know who else to ask for help, who to go to, since she lost coverage that she had for her daughter. And then one of my followers tagged me on her video, and she got in contact with me, and she was crying when I got on the phone with her. And I know right off the bat, I'm not going to be the one writing the policy for them. However, with all the knowledge and the information that I have, I know I'm going to point them towards the right direction that's going to be the best fit for their situation based on what they're going through right now. And she was just so grateful. She was like, you have no idea what you've done for me. You have taken off all this weight off my shoulders. Now I can go and do what I have to do, and I have to worry about this, and I have to worry about my daughter not having coverage. And so, again, I didn't make any money off of that phone call. However, it makes me happy, and it makes me feel fulfilled that with the knowledge that I have, I help someone better, to make their lives a little bit better, a little bit easier, because they are already going through a very harsh situation. And so that is one of the best feelings. I've done some entrepreneurial stuff in the past where I was like, okay, great. This is going to be awesome. I'm going to be making a lot of money with this. But at the end of the day, it did not fulfill me the same way. So it's that fulfillment of being able to help someone with the information that you have that they don't have, you know? And so I think that's like the best part of it.
Yeah. And, you know, here's the cool part. So regardless of whether in that situation, you would not, I'm going to assert, you would not have had that fulfillment had you tried to sell them something, even knowing that it really is not a good fit for them.
Right.
Or doing what a lot of other people would do and just shut it down immediately. Sorry, I can't help you.
Right. Yes.
Either one of those would have given you pretty much the same unfulfilled feeling. And yet, taking care of someone in a time of struggle, even though you can't financially benefit on it, there's the thing called the law of reciprocity.
Right.
That is going to come back somewhere energetically to you. And that's one of the reasons you resonated and came to ENO is the energy, right?
Right.
That's going to come back somewhere for you. And you may never, ever even know how it actually came back to you.
Right.
Right? You're going to get something that's like based off of that energy that you put out today. And that person that you advised, they may be like, she couldn't help me because of my unique situation, but here's who you need to talk to.
Right.
And they could be sending you business as well.
Right.
So it's a long game, not the short game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and that right there is networking. It's being there for the people that you're connecting with so that when there is a need, they turn to you that you want to be. So you said something really, what you just shared was incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
Let's highlight that. You also mentioned something else in that little story, which I think we got to highlight this because it's kind of cool. You have followers.
Yes.
About how many followers do you have?
Not that many. I want to say, from my TikTok account, I share videos sharing health insurance tips with people. And again, that's going back to the fulfillment that I have of sharing what I know, that not a lot of us regular people know about health insurance, right? Unless you're actually licensed and involved in the industry, you are aware of the information that is available. So that fulfills me, sharing the information with people. And I want to say I have about 2,700 followers on TikTok. I have some on Instagram, not sure how many, a little bit on YouTube and stuff, and a little bit on Facebook as well. But I will say, even though the number is not huge, I do get at least one deal coming from my TikTok videos. And just this morning, I had an appointment with this lady that had already talked to a couple of agents from my company, because we are all over the nation. But for whatever reason, she came across one of my videos. She scheduled a free consultation with me. We talked, and she told me that she had already looked at a policy. Actually, she had already looked at 3 of them, but it just wasn't convincing her. Like, there was something about them that she was like, I don't know. Some part of it sounds too good to be true. Part of it doesn't make sense. And she sort of just like left it. And so when I got on the phone with her, I said, okay, let's look at other avenues, other options. And we explore those. It was like an hour and a half conversation. So at the end of that call, she said, how do I go about getting the policy that one of them showed me, but I want to have the policy with you? And that I thought that was crazy. Not that I wanted to do wrong the other agents that had already presented the policy to her. However, she wanted to work with me, right? She made that decision. And so I'm going back to your question, Micah. I don't have a whole lot of followers on my videos, but the deals do, the applications, the presentations do come from that source.
Well, one, I'm going to say that there's a lot of people out there on social media, and then there's a lot of people out there on social media that don't have that many followers on TikTok. So that number is actually a little bit, and I mean followers in the sense that here you are, you're doing this in business, right? And you're putting information out there for your business and all that, and you've got that many followers. Sure, there are the famous whatever Instagram models, and there's the TikTok jocks out there that they've got lots of followers, but they're also putting out just goofy stuff on, and that's why they've got followers. All right. So what I wanted to highlight for you was that you've got that many followers for the content that you're putting out in regards to health insurance. That's actually pretty impressive. And, we should all, what color button was it again? Where's the, oh man,
I'm not sure.
Remember. I don't want to hit the wrong button and be like, whoa, there's the clapping sound. Like, woo, yeah.
Well, and there's two things that came up. So, you're just giving away information on TikTok. And how many people, doesn't matter what field they're in, come from a scarcity mindset. I can't share that because if I share that, somebody in my field's going to learn that and they're going to do that.
Right.
But it's about raising the level, right? And the ones that are going to come to you are going to come to you. The ones that are going to come to Bob because he's doing something in the health insurance field, they're going to come to Bob, right? The other thing that you said is, you didn't, with that gal, that you had the hour-and-a-half conversation. There's two things that I want to say to that. She chose to do business with you. You didn't have to snake her away from someone else, right? Which, again, comes from the scarcity mindset. People will snake somebody. I've had it. You've had it. Micah, you've had someone snaked out from below you, right? And you didn't have to do that. They clearly chose you for a reason. The other thing is that hour-and-a-half conversation, and this is really important no matter what you do for a living. When you understand the true value of a customer, a client, and in yours, it's residual. So, yes, you spent an hour and a half and you closed that piece of business and you got X dollars that month for closing that piece of business. But then next month and the month after and 5 years from now and 10 years from now, what's the value of that hour and a half? Right. It goes way up. And that's the thing that I love about, a lot of businesses is people say, what's your customer, what's the value of your customer? And I know for you two and for me and my other core business, I don't know because I'm not done being paid on them yet. Mm-hmm. They got another 10, 15, 20 years. I don't know. Right. I don't know what that is. So,
Yoana, I know that you're big into the personal development. You had mentioned that before, and you've done all of our empowerment training here at ENO. Yes. How has that affected your networking?
Wow. I will say it has changed. First of all, I had no experience in networking when I first came in here. So I started learning from the best right off the bat, I will say. So I do not have to struggle with pulling out my laptop and start doing presentations right when I first meet people. However, what Phil was just mentioning, after all of the training that I've gone and done, I believe everything I do in networking, in terms of family or clients, it comes from a place of abundance, where I'm doing my best and delivering the best that I can. For instance, if I'm meeting with someone, 100% present there with them, building that connection. And if I have something to provide to them, I provide it. If they have something that I need, I'll openly ask for it. And it comes from that place of knowing that it is available out there for you. And not only that, but also being able to clearly see people as who they are, human beings. Like you mentioned, people can, when you have a one-to-one, someone can just show up with their laptop and ready to start presenting and start pitching you, right? And it doesn't mean they're necessarily a bad person. As to probably in the past, I would have thought that. Right? I would have been like, why? We haven't even finished our coffee yet, you know? But now I know it's just the lack of education. And so I can just sit there and listen to them and provide the attention that they need, right? But it's all sort of, after going through the training, I feel like even my brain sort of, it kind of like the level of noise slowed down. And it became present in the moment. And everything else is like almost gone, you know, all the noise and, you know, judgments and things of that nature that can, you know, as you're having a conversation with people or as you're meeting people, can start going off, right? However, all of that, it's sort of quiet, and I'm able to be present and like listen and see the person as who they are, human beings, right? And we're just living this experience.
Yeah.
It's powerful stuff right there. Good stuff.
Anything else, Micah? I think we're close to our hour, aren't we? What's the timer say?
Yeah, we're pretty much right there on the top of the hour. We want to thank you, Yoana, for coming on in here, and hope you had a good time and
yes,
sharing a little bit about your journey and all that. I mean, there's probably people that you're networking with that don't even know some of the details about what you're doing on the TikTok space, right? And what a wealth of information. I mean, one last thing that I think you got something with TikTok happened, right? Recently?
Yes.
What was that? I don't remember. I remember you sharing it with me, and I don't.
Yeah. So, Eric and I, from my mastermind group, we are currently working on a TikTok course that we can, you know, put out there and help other people take advantage of the platform. It's completely for free, and other people can learn how to promote their business, their service, or whatever it is that they have going on. I feel like I have gotten a good idea as to what to do in terms of promoting a business, because it's not, this is what I sell, this is what I sell. It's more so providing the information, and the people will come to you if it resonates with them. So I think that's a very important thing to sort of learn in terms of when you're trying to promote your business. And so Eric and I were working on something that we're going to put out there hopefully pretty soon. We're doing the work in the midst of, you know, planning things out and recording and stuff like that. So pretty soon we'll launch that for ENO members and anybody else who wants to learn how to take advantage of TikTok.
And you actually started being able to monetize your TikTok, correct?
Correct.
Now, that probably wasn't your intention when you started it, right?
No, it was not at all. I started it, I just wanted to talk about health insurance and share health insurance tips with people. And it so came about that the number of followers grew, and so I'm able to monetize it that way, aside from the business that comes from it as well. So,
and that's why we lovingly call her Yo Money.
Absolutely. When I asked that question, I didn't even know you were partnering and collaborating with Eric. That's awesome. I think that's phenomenal that you're doing that. So congratulations. I really look forward to seeing what that looks like, and what you guys are going to be able to create out of that space and do for other networkers.
Yes.
So awesome.
So you want to tell our guests how they can reach you, your name, your business name, and a phone number that they can reach you on.
Okay. So my name is Yoana Santiago on TikTok. If people listening who have TikTok, you can find me my handle is @healthinsurance-tips. And on Instagram, it will be YSL Health Insurance. And a good phone number to reach me would be 928-351-8700.
Awesome. Well, I think that wraps us up for this episode of the Empowerment Business Success Podcast. I think another great show. Micah, anything you want to wrap up with? Otherwise, I'll say this. You can find us at enosuccess.com. That's enosuccess.com. We do lunches every week. We've got mixers. We've got mastermind groups that you can come and visit here in the Phoenix area. We would love to see you. And with that, Micah, let's close it out.
All right. Well, it was a pleasure. Thanks much, guys. And all right, we'll kick it off next week. Adios.
Awesome.